I'm normally known for talking about disruptive technologies. We're in the valley where we're talking about new business models and what they're happening. But I'm going to take a different tack today. I want to talk about something that you can do with all these different technologies as they're changing. And I'm going to set the stage and talk about one of the ones that are the most exponential, changing our lives, not just on the business side, but also on the personal side. And so we're going to start with that. Now, we're seeing massive disruption in the marketplace. One of the stats that we see is that 52% of the Fortune 500 have been merged, acquired, gone bankrupt, fallen off the list since 2000. These companies are going away. They're being disrupted. Organizations are going away. They're being disrupted. And the reason this is changing is because we have exponential technologies at play applied to business models that are transforming every industry. If you think about the top 3, the top 5 companies in every single category, they are taking 40 to 70% of the market share. They're taking 40 to 77% of the profits. It is not creating a digital divide. It is creating winner-takes-all markets in every area. And this type of change is so disruptive. Now, I want to illustrate what that change looks like because there's different levels of innovation, different levels of transformation that's happening, and I'm going to do a few things to show you this. One of those areas that's transforming every business, every part of personal life is artificial intelligence. This is one of the factors that is going to transform not just those businesses, not just your personal life, but humanity. So when we think about this level of disruption, I'm going to use some examples to show you what we're talking about. This isn't a regular disruption. This is a huge disruption. So I'm going to put something on the screen, and I want you to yell out loud and tell me what you see. Are you guys ready? All right. 3, 2, 1. What do you see? A Sony Walkman. Was anybody alive? No, just kidding. Anybody know when this thing came out? Yell out. 85, 60, someone said 82, 81. Okay, we're getting closer. This thing came out in 79 or 81, depending where you lived. In Japan, it was 79. Everywhere else in the world, it was 81. This device transformed how we looked at music, being portable. It was one of Sony's early breakthroughs. It was a disruptive technology because it allowed portable music. And what's interesting about the Walkman is when I grew up, I basically cut lawns to pay for school. And this was our way to get through things. Now, I had to wait 6 to 7 years later to find the next innovation that came out of Sony. But when you look at things later, it looks different. So I want you to take a guess. What do you think was the next innovation? I'm going to put it up on screen. Ready? 3, 2, and I want you to yell out loud. 1, what do you see? The double cassette Walkman. You had 2 cassettes you could play, if everyone remembers what a cassette was, and it's 180 minutes of music, and that was the incremental innovation. It wasn't disruptive, actually. It wasn't the CD Discman. It wasn't anything like this. This was what incremental innovation looks like. Now, what I want to do is give an example of what an exponential technology does and what that type of transformational innovation looks like. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because when you think about the iPod, you think about design, you think about ease of use, but if you go back to the year 2000 and you think about how you paid for music, it was very different, right? In 2000, anybody know what the average cost of a CD was? Yell it out loud. 12, 15, 16, someone said 20. Okay, who got one good song? Raise your hands if you remember those days. Who got 2? Anyone get to 3? Okay, so most people get 2 good songs at $10 a song, right? Now, in 2000, I didn't pay for music. I had Napster, I had LimeWire, I had Russian download sites. I paid nothing for music. But after 2000, what happened? You paid 99 cents for music. Some of you guys still probably don't pay for music, but you paid 99 cents for music. And I went from nothing to 99 cents. You went from $10 to 99 cents. That is a business model disruption. That is transformational. Now, this is the type of technology we're talking about. Now, let's take one more here. Who here had an iPhone in 2006? Raise your hands high. Who are early adopters? All right, it came out in 2007. Sorry about that. But this one device is interesting because this one device took out 27 business models. Think about it. Where do you get your music? Where do you get a camera? You don't buy digital cameras anymore. Where's your camcorder? It's here. Flashlight manufacturers disrupted by the iPhone. Who goes out and buys a flashlight? So this one device took out 27 business models, 50,000 products, maybe 10 million jobs on one device. This is the level of disruption we're talking about. This is what an exponential technology can do to your business model. And that is where we are. And this is why I really want to talk about AI. Because when we think about AI, this is where we are, artificial intelligence. Now, there are lots of technologies that are out there that are going to make this disruption, but the reason I want to bring AI out here and all these other ones is because they operate on data. Your data, everyone else's data, they bring that together to get to decisions, to get to correlations, and it becomes very important. Internet of Things, it's about capturing things that are happening in the background. It's about bringing that context to life. Where are you? What's happening? What's sensing? If we think about 3D printing, it's about putting together things right on the fly to be able to be made, additive manufacturing. If you think about AR and VR, it's basically transforming the world, your visual paradigm in front of you. And when we think about things like robotics, it's automating, it's creating human performances, bringing that to life, bringing robots to be more like humans. When we think about blockchain, it's serving and bringing that data to everyone and connecting folks. And when you think about AI, it is augmenting humanity and maybe replacing humanity over time. And why is this so important? Because we are in an era where AI is possible. There are 7 factors where artificial intelligence require. The first one is lots of data, and we've got tons of it. We're storing that, and it's happening in the cloud. And also, math talent. Right? We've got lots of algorithms that were developed in the 70s and 80s before that compute power was available. And it's compute power that we suddenly have lots of access to again, once again, because of the cloud. And it's the ability to compress time and bring it together. And then, of course, the expertise that everybody has. That AI being the new UX, being able to talk to things, that bringing together the ability to take recommendation engines and putting them together. We are now in an era where artificial intelligence is possible. It may look like predictive analytics today, it might be machine learning, but we're headed in a world where the computers could be smarter than us. Maybe they'll be able to think, maybe they'll be creative. So let me tell you about the interesting story about the letter A. I spent a summer at a major research institution in 1987. And I got there at a summer program. I was really excited. I was a high school student doing internships, and it was kind of fun. And I met this guy who had just figured out how to get a computer to find the letter A. And so he was telling me about all the stuff that he did. It was a 2-year research process, and he's talking about how he's able to get this. And he's like, all excited. He finally finished his thesis, and he said, look, I succeeded. We can now see the letter A. And I was like, kind of cool. So I asked him, what are you going to do next? And he said, I'm working on lowercase a. And you realize what it was. I mean, that's it. That's all you could do in 1986, right? And it made it very, very hard. But today, we can do much more than that, right? Today, AI is this new user experience. We talk to our machines. We're listening to them. They're listening to you, right? AI is the ability to connect in terms of touch, sight, sound, conversations, even sense. We're seeing that all across the board. Who's talking to their computers right now? Raise your hands. Right? Who's got an Alexa? Who's talking to Siri or Google Voice or Google Now, right? You're talking to your machines. They're responding to you. They're making guesses, right? Computer vision is real. We can see things. We can see patterns, right? They can tell that there's an anomaly. They can tell that someone doesn't belong in the neighborhood or someone might be able to do something that might be suspicious or malicious, right? And we're almost getting to smell and taste at the same time. Computers can actually start figuring out smell and figuring out what's happening. And this is all happening. All this requires lots of data. And that data, we're willing to share. We're willing to sell. We're willing to give to people. I'll give you an example. As these companies make these disruptions, everything is about trying to figure out who you are or what's happening. So take a toaster manufacturer. These folks are in a very interesting situation, right? Because if you sell a toaster to someone, basically, you have no idea who buys your toaster. You sell it to 20 different companies, 20 different stores, right? And so the only time someone calls up the toaster manufacturer is when there's a problem, right? It's broken, it doesn't work, can you help me fix that? And so it's a very bad business because you sell it to someone, you don't know who they are, and the only time they call you is when it doesn't work. And so what they're trying to do is basically change that. And this is where Internet of Things comes into play. What they want you to do ultimately is register. Now, whoever fills out the registration card for an appliance, raise your hands. Oh my God, we got one person. That is amazing. The average is 0.08% that ever fill out the registration card. So they don't know who the people are on the back end. And so if I actually created a product that said, if you register and if you connect to the internet, we will give you a new feature that you didn't have before, that registration will go 70 to 80%. So if I told you, register, and I will get you a new feature, I'll tell you how many hours you have left on your toaster, you're more than likely to actually register. In fact, I'll tell you, you have 20 hours left, you've got 100 toasts, you've got 1,000 toasts left on your toaster. People will register. It's 70 to 80% because they want your data. Now, why do they want to do that? They want to figure out when that toaster is going to break. What's wrong with the toaster? And once you're connected, they can do that. And in fact, by doing that and using your data, they are able to create a couple of business models. And one of them is the ability to say, hey, I can tell you how long you have left on your toaster. The second thing that can actually happen over time is they can say, would you like to buy another toaster? I know you got 100 toasts left. If you like a new toaster in 2 to 3 weeks, we can make sure that happens for you. And so suddenly they have ability to figure out how to get you toasts as a service. And on top of that, once they have that in place, they can figure out when your toaster is going to break, or if they can fix it, they can actually send someone there before it breaks. And then after that, they have the ability to go out and figure out, hey, maybe I can sell you something else. Maybe I can connect you. And all these new business models that we're talking about are powered by data. They want to know when you use the toaster, why you use the toaster, what part is broken. They want to know how often people use toasters. They want to know when these things, what suppliers and parts break. And that's what they're trying to do. And so every time we see these new business models, you're going to see they're being powered by data. Now, the other piece that's important here is they're building for mass personalization at scale in a digital world. People want to connect to you on a one-on-one basis. And that connection point is now happening. And there are 3 things that are required to do that. The first one is context. Where are you? Who are you? Where are you standing? What's the weather like? Right? What time of day is it? How do you feel? Are you happy? Are you sad? What's going on? And that's the first part. They use context because the more context you have, the more relevant you are. And the more relevant you have, the more likely you can earn the permission to engage. Otherwise, you hit delete or you ignore someone. You're like, oh, that's not interesting. And that's why they're gathering all that data. The second part is providing choices, right? Who remembers Choose Your Own Adventure books? These things are great. You start on page 1, you go page 37, come to the 56, come back to 20, whoops, sorry, the end. And there's 27 possible endings. The interesting thing about these books is every choice in a digital world is a signal. It tells you what you're going to do, not what you said you were going to do, not what you thought about you're doing. It knows exactly what you're going to do. And then the third thing is a thing called anticipatory analytics. And these anticipatory analytics are thinking about what will happen. So there's a famous hockey player named Wayne Gretzky. And someone asked his father, what made him a wonderful hockey player? And the answer was, he skates to where the puck will be. That's a very profound statement. How does he know where the puck will be? And that's the anticipatory analytics. He takes the guess. He thinks about where it's going to go. And when you take context and choice and anticipatory analytics, you have the ability to figure out how to deliver on mass personalization at scale. And that uses a lot of data. So how these AI-driven smart services are being built will look like this. And it's a simple example. I walk into a large building. I'm in the lobby. It does a 27-point facial scan. It does a gait analysis. It sees where I'm going, and it says, it looks like Ray. He's on the 15th floor. Starts sending elevators down. It doesn't even know who I am, but it's taking a guess and says, send elevators down. I swipe my badge in. I get into the elevator, and it says, would you like to go to the 15th floor? There's a 90% chance I'm going to go to the 15th floor. Well, that's kind of cool. Now, I've been trying to meet with my boss. She's on the 25th floor. She's got a 15-minute window for a meeting, and it says option number 2. Would you like to meet with your boss? She's on the 25th floor. Oh, so it's very cool. So I got a 90% probability I'm going to go to the 15th floor. I got an 87% probability I might take the meeting with my boss. But then option 3 comes in as a test to see what I'm going to do. It says, Ray, there are donuts on the 5th floor. So which choice should I take? The donuts, the meeting, or go to my office? Donuts, all right, we're going with donuts. And so you get the idea. And this is going to happen to us every day. We're going to get different choices based on probability, based on context choices, and anticipatory analytics. And we're doing that already when we make choices on our phones, when we make choices digitally. And that's how these systems are being built. And they use lots of data. In fact, what we're really trying to do here is we're building for outcomes, right? We start by figuring out, hey, what's happening around us? And then we start figuring out, can you tell me, can you give me an alert, a notification? Then what we ask is, help me make a recommendation. And then ultimately, can you automate that? In the era of artificial intelligence, we are at this automation part. We are starting to predict things from happening. We're starting to prevent things from happening. And that's why you're seeing a big rush towards building systems that are built for artificial intelligence, changing the way you work, augmenting your decisions. And we love it. We love those recommendations. We love to know if you watched House of Cards, you might like Game of Thrones, right? We love having those recommendations at the consumer level. And now it's happening at the business level. And there's a big rush, right? There's hundreds of billions of dollars being invested in these systems. And then we ask these types of questions. Will the robots take over? Who thinks the robots are going to take over? Raise your hands. Oh no, we got dystopia. No, I'm just kidding. So who thinks this is? But this is where we see this. We see a possibility where this might happen. Find the human in the factory. Anyone see the human? Right there. Right there. There's 2. Okay. All right. No, but I don't think the robots are taking over the world. But we are so compelled at the power of this technology, where artificial intelligence is happening, that we're starting to wonder when robots do things better than humans, or when machines do better things than human. And there are a couple places where we're really good at. We're good when it's really complex, but so are the machines. We're good when it's really creative, thank God, that's the area where we're much better at. And we're really good when you have to physically be there. But all this other stuff, lots of volume, right? Lots of repetitiveness. That's where machines and computing come into play. When we think about the time to complete, we have to do things really quickly. When we think about what happens in terms of how many connections we have, that's where humans fail. That's where machines do a better job. And in fact, if I put this chart up, maybe another 20 years, we might lose some of those areas because the machines are a little bit better. But that's okay. What we're really trying to do is augment humanity. Right? Some jobs will go away. We know that's going to happen. But we see this in a market that's coming. And so the question then comes, we built this cool exponential technology. We are transforming business models. Lives are being changed. What are the ethics behind this? What are the ethics? What has to happen? So who's heard this story? 2 cars, 2 autonomous vehicles crash. Who lives? Anyone hear this story? It's a classic ethics question. Right? And so often the question is it the young 18-year-old? Is it the single mother? Is it the pregnant woman? Is it the successful businessman? Is it the politician? And that's the question we always ask. So you're building these systems, who gets to play God? Well, the obvious answer is, there's going to be an accident. So send the cars out, but don't send the humans. So that's one way to do it. But we've also heard this other thing. Where does ethics come from? And so I'm going to take a perspective. It might be a little bit offensive, but I want you to think it through. So an autonomous vehicle hits a pet in Canada. What would happen? Well, in the culture and the ethics in Canada, they would look at the pet, they would scan the pet tag, they'd send a message to the owner and say, I'm so sorry, we've hit your pet. We are taking the vehicle to the nearest hospital, right? And that's the nearest veterinary clinic. And we're going to take care of them. We are so sorry. Please come see your pet. I just want you to know that happened. Right? Does that sound like Canada? Yeah, that sounds like Canada. All right. Autonomous vehicle hits a pet in Russia. Yeah, no, hold on. What happens? Quick, erase the film. We were never here. Change our GPS and run. And that's perfectly acceptable. That's perfectly acceptable. Autonomous vehicle hits a pet in China. Let's see, how big's the pet? What's the fine for hitting the pet? And how much does it cost for the pet to live? All right, run the pet over 3 times and we're going to eat it. No, I'm just kidding. All right, I can do that. But you get what I'm saying. What is the correct answer? What is the correct answer? I don't know. And what we're trying right now is we're asking these types of questions. Right? Ethics are a reflection of our values. Ethics are a reflection of what our societal norms are, and they're different everywhere. We can't even agree in the UN on what's right? Because we're all different and we bring different levels. And we have this belief that there's going to be one assuming excellent set of ethics to govern AI or govern the future of biomedical engineering or any of these technologies. And that's what I'm worried about. Right? As a technologist in the Valley, as someone that loves disruptive technologies and business models that are happening, I want you to take an ethical view. I want you to rethink about where this is all going. Elon Musk may have a point. He may have a point. Will the robots take over? Will AI be sinister? Will it completely take over the world? We had some rules in robotics. Isaac Asimov talked about rules, these 3 rules where you don't do harm to humans ultimately, right? But we have to rethink this. And part of this comes to you. It comes to you as the next generation to think about blending both the technology and the broader view. If you're science, technology, engineering, math, balance it out with ethnography, philosophy, anthropology. We need digital artisans in this area because we're building awesome things. We're building disruptive technologies, but we're also not thinking about the societal consequences. And we're not thinking about it from a holistic framework. There are politics, there's economic, there's legislative, there's environmental consequences to everything we do. And while we get excited about the technologies we have, while we get excited about these disruptions and exponential technologies, we have to think about where we go next. And this is what I really came here to talk about, was how do we get from here to the Star Trek economy? People don't work for money. People think about ideas. People look at it in a different light. Right? Almost every invention that we've been building is really towards these Star Trek economies. Think transporters and mobile devices and translators and all these different things that we're coming up with. Do we tax robots? Right? I wanted to put a slide up that might have seemed offensive, and I didn't do it, but there will be a picture one day in the paper where the robots are taking down human statues because they oppressed us. Think about it. The robots are like, yeah, they took advantage of us. We have to get rid of these humans, right? But that's what we have to think about at a societal level, right? Is privacy dead? Who thinks privacy is dead? Raise your hands. All right. Who thinks privacy isn't dead? Raise your hands. All right, we're split, 50-50. Let's look at it this way. We are happy to trade our privacy for convenience. We give information because we are on a free website. Who's got a Finstagram account and a Rinstagram account? Rinsta, right? People create fake profiles, right? But it's because we're trying to save some part of our profile, right? We're trying to save some part of our privacy. But we are trading information to make things easier, but we keep getting chipped at a little bit. We're trading privacy for security, right? Because we want to feel safe, right? And we feel that that's enough. And all across the board, we're trading privacy away. But let's take a holistic view. A baby born in the year 2050, what rights, what privileges, what roles, what responsibilities will they have? I want you to think about that. Can they be disconnected and not seen as a terrorist? Can they pay in cash? Will there be cash? Will it be a cryptocurrency? Right? Those are the questions we're going to have to ask. And importantly, even more importantly, privacy isn't dead anymore. Privacy. We have to defend privacy at the heart of it because the data that we have, the information that we have, this is an international human right. And my question to you is, will you be able to defend this international human right? Will you be able to think about the privacy implications? And when you build these awesome technologies, when you change these business models, will you have a conscience to protect what is humanity? Thank you very much.